Hey friends, it's Cassie and welcome back for another Brutus Monroe video. Today we're going to be using the November Stencil of the month, and isn't she a beaut? So from one end of the stencil to the other, it's 5 3/4 inches by 5 3/4 inches, and the image obviously inside is a little bit smaller than that, and we're going to focus on using that. I brought in this other set. This is the Succulent border because I wanted that stamp, the sentiment in the middle. I thought that would just be beautiful. Enjoy every moment. And then I did pick out some cardstocks. We have some Poison Apple and some Marsala. I was kind of going for a Christmas card here, even though it doesn't end up being that. So here's the stencil. I have some whitewash cardstock cut down, and what I'm going to do is use a little bit of pixie spray on the back of this because it is a fairly intricate stencil in some areas, and I want to make sure that when I stencil over the top of that, when I do some ink blending, that I don't, mess that up. So I'm going to just flip it over, kind of put down my piece on top of that, try to center it as best I can. And then as you can tell, I have some Simon Hurley inks there on the side. I'm going to pull in my Pink and Main Mini Ergo blending brush, and then we're going to take each of those colors. We've got some Game Over, which is a maroon or a burgundy type color, and I'm using the mini one because I just want some concentrated color in some smaller areas. So I'm doing it over some of the flowers, and then I'll bring it over on the other side over the top of some of those other flowers. And I think I could have kept this to look more a little bit more Christmassy if I hadn't brought in the blue eventually, but I just really wanted some pops of blue. All right, now I'm going to clean off my mini brush because I only have one of these babies, so I'm just going to blend it over the top of my microfiber cloth, which I know it looks filthy, but it actually is clean. And then I'm going to bring in some fake plant. So I'm bringing in the fake plant, just blending that over the leaves, and then I'll clean off my brush once again. And I know that the image itself isn't necessarily Christmas, but I thought if I went with those colors, I could get Christmas. It just doesn't end up translating in the end. So I'm cleaning off my brush one more time, and then that last color is the Midnight Snack color, and I'm going to bring that in just pops. At first I thought I'd just do a couple pops, and then I thought, well, I want the ring itself, the circle in the middle, to really stand out a little more. So I'm going to bring in a little bit more blue just to blend into that. So it just goes slightly over the top of that circle so that when I pull that stencil away, you'll see the nice white ring from the stencil. So I'll pull that away, and oh yeah, that is pretty. And the pixie spray worked great to keep everything in place. And I do like how this looks. I do have a little bit of a white border that I don't like, so I'm going to bring in my guillotine trimmer and just trim off any of that excess. We're obviously going to be making a square card. I don't make many of these, but I do like the look of them. They're so pretty. I went ahead and cut down my Marsala paper already, and then I also have some more, like I said, that Poison Apple, I've cut that down as well. I want to bring in the embossing powder that I used last week that I just love. It's the Golden Gourd. And so in order to make sure that I have this stamped correctly, I'm putting this inside of my Misty. I'll use my magic powder bag over the center, and then I'm going to ink up our stamp using my embossing ink, which is just a clear sticky ink, which you need for embossing. So I'll ink that up, stamp that down, and then I'll cover that with that Golden Gourd embossing powder. This stuff is so, so pretty. It almost looks orange or tan there, but then when you heat it up, it has this beautiful, warm, metallic golden look to it. It is just stunning. I did get a little powder in places I didn't want it to, so I'm just brushing that away with a dry brush. And now I'm going to heat set that till that is smooth and melted. And you'll know that it's melted because you can hold it up in the light and you'll see it go from a matte finish to a shiny finish. And it's just beautiful. So pretty. All right, our next step is to bring in some of that Marsala cardstock. I had trimmed this down. I didn't trim it down enough, so what I'm going to do after I'm comparing it to my Poison Apple cardstock, I'm going to trim that down just a little bit more. My base is, like I said, the Poison Apple. I cut that down to 5.5 inches by 11 inches and then scored it at 5.5 inches, so it'd be a perfect square card. And I'm looking at my Marsala. It definitely needs to be trimmed down just a hair, because to be honest with you, I eyeballed everything on this. I have no actual measurements. And so here I'm trying to measure just to see how much I need to take off, and it's just a sliver. And then it'll be on there pretty decently. So all I'll have is just a nice little border of the Marsala going all around our stenciled panel. I'm going to bring in the stencil one more time because I want to have something on the inside, and I just thought this would be perfect. There is still some pixie spray on the back, so I'm just going to stick that down and pull out the fake plant ink, and then we're going to just do a little bit of blending. I'm not going all the way to the edges. I'm just giving the impression of the stencil basically. It's not going to be super dark, but it is going to be just pretty when I pull that away. And I'm super happy with how that looks. So there's our inside. You can write that message right in there. I'll make sure that my score line is good, and then we're going to bring in some liquid glue and adhere this to the back or our panel so that we can adhere this down to the Marsala cardstock. Now this is a very simple card. Like I said, originally I was thinking Christmas. It doesn't end up translating that way. But it's a very simple card, so even mailing it would be simple. And, you know, I didn't add a lot of embellishment or anything like that. I'm bringing in a little bit more liquid glue. My other one kind of clogged, so I had to bring in something else. And then I'll stick that down. And that's actually going to finish off the card. You could bring in some little prism sequins if you wanted, or some other embellishments, however you want to deal with that. But I think this looks so pretty and simple, and I love that stencil. So if you liked this video, please hit that like button and think about subscribing if you have not already done so. Thank you for stopping by, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.